What happened to me shouldn't happen to anyone, but I'm glad it did. It was a fateful afternoon when I, Marcus Green, the CEO of Solaritech, found myself standing in the aisle of a first-class cabin, my heart pounding as I stared at the occupant of my designated seat, Mr. Whitmore. The disbelief washed over me in waves. Here was a white passenger lounging in my seat, dismissing my rightful claim with a sneer. Flashlight attendant Brenda's gaze didn't declipt as she assured me I'd have to take it up with the captain. My gut tightened as I felt the weight of the condescension, an invisible hand pressing down on my dignity. The irony was bitter. I was a significant stakeholder in this airline, yet I was being treated as if I were invisible. With each escalating moment, I held tight to my composure, weighing my options. The captain's detachment was appalling, offering me a choice that felt more like a threat. Leave in silence or face removal. But a deep-rooted sense of dignity surged within me. I had a decision to make. I walked off the plane, calmly dialing the number that would change everything. By the time the crew learned their fate, chaos erupted around the gate as a single decision reverberated through the airline. It wasn't just about my removed seat. It became a catalyst for change. Months later, as I stood before a newly inclusive boardroom filled with diverse faces, I couldn't help but smile. This incident had transformed not just me, but an entire culture. Together, we'd reshaped Nova Air into an emblem of equality and respect, proving that dignity comes not from privilege, but from the unwavering belief in our worth. "Excuse me, sir, you're going to have to vacate this seat," Flight attendant Brenda said, her tone dripping with condescension. "I'm sorry, what? This is my seat. 1A, confirmed?" Marcus replied, bewildered as he gestured to his boarding pass. Mr. Whitmore, the white passenger sprawled in Marcus's seat, smirked. "You must be mistaken. I've been sitting here for at least 20 minutes. Brenda, I suggest you check the manifest. I'm the CEO of Solaritech, and this is my flight." Marcus tried to maintain his composure, his calm demeanor belying the anger boiling underneath. "Sir, I don't need your job title to tell you what's best," Brenda retorted, crossing her arms. "You can either take a seat at the back or leave. The captain will back me." At her words, silence enveloped first class, the atmosphere tense. Marcus could feel drumming hearts and furtive glances from the other passengers. He clenched his fists, the injustice of it all sharp against his skin. "Respect, with all due respect. I've invested AOS Airline. I intend to sit in my seat," Marcus asserted, a hint of defiance in his voice. "Says the man trying to take advantage of the situation," Mr. Whitmore snapped, laughing dismissively. Marcus's heart raced. "I won't engage in a debate over my dignity." "Then you're going to have to leave or I'll call security," Brenda warned, showing her true allegiance to the man in 1A. With a slow breath, Marcus made his decision. "You know what? I'll walk." As he stepped onto the jet bridge, he dialed a number. "Fire the entire crew effective immediately." Chaos ensued behind him, and he smiled, a weight lifting from his shoulders. The sound of sirens and shuffled steps marked the dawn of a new beginning. As Marcus Green stepped onto the plane, the familiar scent of polished wood and leather enveloped him, a subtle reminder of the success he had built. His heart raced, not from nerves, but from the anticipation of the billion-dollar merger he was headed to solidify in Zurich. He had earned this seat, 1A, and yet, as he approached, he felt the pang of disbelief as another man lounged comfortably, oblivious to the conflict unfolding. "Excuse me," Marcus said, his voice steady but laced with confusion. The man, a middle-aged balding presence in an expensive suit, looked up, his indifferent gaze hardly registering the inconvenience. "It's my seat," Marcus asserted, gesturing towards the boarding pass clenched in his hand. The flight attendant, Brenda, swooped in as if summoned, her eyes flitting between the passenger and Marcus. "Sir, we have a policy for first class and—" "Policy? That's my reserved seat." The frustration spilled over, rising in Marcus's chest, but he struggled to remain calm. His voice was firm, yet he could see the flicker of sympathy for the other man in Brenda's eyes. With an eye roll, she replied, "Maybe you should take a seat in the back." A deep breath swallowed indignation. The captain arrived moments later, his nonchalant demeanor a slap in the face. "You'll need to leave, sir, or we'll have to remove you." With each word, the power dynamics shifted, but something in Marcus stirred. An old ember ignited into a flame. At that moment, seated there, reduced to a mere nuisance, a pivotal realization struck deep within him. What mattered was not just this flight, but the silent battles he had faced throughout his career. Unrecognized, unseen. Enough was enough. Silently seething, he turned to leave. But before stepping off the jet bridge, he pulled out his phone, fingers trembling with purpose. The request he made next would echo far beyond his temporary disgrace, a reckoning that would rain down consequences like a storm. Marcus stood in the aisle, his heart racing. "Excuse me, that's my seat," he said, his voice steady despite the chaos around him. Mr. Whitmore glanced up, smirking. "No one cares, buddy, get lost." Laughter rippled from nearby passengers, but Marcus held his ground. "Brenda," he called the flight attendant, "I have a confirmed reservation for 1A. I expect you to enforce it." Brenda shot him a look of irritation, crossing her arms. "You need to sit down, sir. I'll have to call the captain if you don't." Unease bubbled in Marcus's chest, but he didn't flinch. Instead, he stepped closer. "You know, I actually own a share of this airline," he said quietly, an undercurrent of confidence weaving through his words. "I'd recommend being more attentive to your customers." That caught her off guard. For the first time, her expression faltered. Marcus took a deep breath, a flicker of clarity igniting within him. "No, I won't be complying. It's clear I'm not welcome here, and frankly, I deserve better. Their captain, you have two options. Leave quietly or be escorted off." Marcus sighed, visions of the merger dancing in his mind. He could storm away, but instead he squared his shoulders. "Very well, call security," he replied, his voice low and unwavering. The moment he stepped off the plane, he dialed corporate, excitement thrumming through his veins. "Fire the entire crew. They need to understand the value of respect," he commanded. As pandemonium erupted behind him, a small victory for dignity had begun. Marcus Green stood in the plush cabin of first class, his heart steady, moments away from sealing a billion-dollar merger. The smell of leather mingled with freshly poured champagne, but as he approached his seat, 1A, his confident smile faltered. A hefty white man lounged in his place, his laughter ringing out with a careless disregard for the chaos unfolding around him. "Excuse me," Marcus said, maintaining composure. "You're in my seat." The man, Mr. Whitmore, barely acknowledged him. "I think you're mistaken," he retorted arrogantly. Flight attendant Brenda, an echo of Whitmore's entitlement, approached. "Sir, I need you to comply," she commanded Marcus, her tone sharp. The room tensed, but he merely inhaled and stood firm, refusing to be sidelined. As the captain arrived, every pair of eyes in the cabin seemed to hold their breath. He brushed aside Marcus's reservation with a terse, "It's either you find a different seat or we escort you off." Marcus felt the ironies coil around him like a suffocating vine. He was a significant stakeholder in the very airline that stood against him. The decision crystallized. He would not fuel their prejudice. He gathered his dignity and exited the plane. On the jet bridge, he dialed the call that would build anew. The crew's ignorance led to their downfall. Within moments, chaos erupted. Passengers stood confused as security arrived to guide Brenda and her team from the aircraft. The weight of their privilege suddenly stripped away. Later, at the press conference, cameras flashed as Marcus conveyed his vision for change. "This incident reflects systemic failure," he declared, "but it will be our turning point." The elation of the moment radiated through him. Weeks passed, and as the airline rebranded with equality training, whispers of a new employee, Chloe, the underappreciated junior attendant, gained attention as she rose through the ranks. With a renewed focus on diversity and respect, the shadows of elitism began to fade. As Marcus watched Chloe address the team, he realized that his moment of quiet triumph meant so much more than personal justice. It had sparked a shift, a ripple of hope that would carry forward. As I sit here reflecting on that flight, the memories wash over me like waves, both tumultuous and calm. The surreal moment of being forcibly removed from my seat still stings, yet it awakens something in me, an understanding of power dynamics and the importance of standing firm in one's dignity. I never imagined that a mere airplane trip could morph into a lesson on justice and bias. But there I was, caught in the tide of privilege and entitlement. Taya, in that moment of decision, Walking away felt like reclaiming my strength. It ignited a fire for change that rippled far beyond my own experience. I remember looking back at the crew, their shocked faces a blend of disbelief and regret, and I realized I could turn this injustice into a pivotal moment of transformation for an entire company. The system might have initially failed me, but it also became an opportunity to raise others up. Now I wonder, do you think I went too far? What would you have done in my shoes? Have you ever faced a moment that challenged your sense of belonging? I invite you to share your stories, to weigh in on the complexities of power, bias, and justice in the comments below. Let's create a dialogue that inspires change together.